In this video discussion, I'd like to present the second half of the previous video discussion, which is the nature of being here. Now, in previous video discussions, we've talked about nature and the paradox. Nature, of course, being supreme. That is, nature is all-encompassing. If there is something unnatural, we don't know it. This is either in our three-dimensional world or in the spiritual world. Every thought, every creation, everything is under the auspices of nature, and that goes for our human condition and the spiritual condition, of course. And it presents this in a paradox. That is the paradox of being two things at the same time, both apparently being supreme. In other words, in our human condition, it seems to be supreme that we survive and matriculate through this lifetime, while at the same time, in the spiritual world, it seems that the spiritual responsibilities are of the most importance. So, how does this paradox present itself? Well, in our daily walk, in our daily living, we have events, and those events will generate thoughts, and eventually they will turn into belief. But these events are our daily, ordinary circumstances. Because this is our journey, and we're equipped for this daily situation of perceptions and observations and understandings. We try to accomplish our task both on this three-dimensional plane, but also on the higher spiritual plane at the same time. Consequently, nature being of the paradox, it uses those events at one in the same. It's simply a matter of how in tune we are and to which we align more with the human experience or the spiritual experience. But the events, which remember that each and every event that occurs in your life is created by destiny. And since destiny is essentially the ramifications of your guidance, these daily events are used in two ways. No event is without its three-dimensional part and its spiritual part as well. They're never disconnected. It's a matter of perception, so that the ordinary events in your life are the same exact events that are used to create extraordinary understandings from the inorganic side. Now, if you want to put this into just language, you could think of this as signs and omens. But the essence of it is that you could potentially be out walking. And perhaps in your path, you look down and you see something, and it looks out of place. I don't know, a stone. It could be anything, but it just looks out of place. And so you simply brush it aside, and that would be a daily occurrence. To another perception of it, that same exact event could be, whether you want to call it a sign or an omen or whatever, it's a situation where there's a different discernment, but it's using the same event to communicate extraordinary and extraordinary understandings. Or if you want to put it in different terms, here it is that you're taking a natural situation, whether it's a walk, again, it could be any event, a very, very mundane event, whatever you would choose to think about, could be a very mundane event, but it would be a natural thing that occurs in this three-dimensional realm. However, coincidental with it is not only the natural, but because of the paradox, there is the supernatural that's also associated with it. And the reason that this is kind of a difficult issue is because in our three-dimensional walk, we are primarily looking outward in sight instead of trying to be insightful. And again, paradoxically, because of the natural relationship of ourselves and our spirits, we generally look out and then we feel for whatever we see. We try to feel the truth, or we try to feel the circumstance after we've seen it. Whereas in the spiritual part of our understandings, the spirit feels in order to see. So it's a mirror image, if you would say, but it's a paradoxical situation. They're one and the same. They're both equally important. They both have to be given the highest priority at the same time. Now, some of these occurrences, depending, can be how you are touched by them. You can be touched very softly, or very with great strength. For instance, you might notice a glimmer or a shine on a leaf after walking, or even after a rain or whatever. You see the sunlight and it causes you to go into some type of deeper thought at that moment for whatever reason, or it sticks with you and you meditate on it later, or it just may be disregarded as just, well, that's what happens, where we're at. So the glimmer of a leaf, the flutter of a leaf, the passing of a butterfly, some sense of smell, or anything. It can be something very subtly that touches you, or it can be something that is even much more dramatic. Let's say like a NDE, a near-death experience. When you come back, you've been touched very strongly, and the message is overwhelmingly strong. It's unmistakable. And when you come from an experience like that, because in that situation, you, for a period of time, it's actually reversed, where you're more spiritual than you are human. And so you feel that existence, you feel that, unadulterated, unconditional love that's in that relationship that we have, so that when you come back from that experience and return to the daily three-dimensional existence, again, that relationship, of course, is reversed, where you're more aware of your dimensional bodily experiences than your spiritual existence, but it has strongly hit you so that you have something unmistakable to which you know is true. So at any rate, I just wanted to mention that because that fits in with this video discussion, and now we'll just do the second half of the previous video discussion and talk a little bit about the nature, again, of being here and some of those ramifications. So as we noted previously, that of course when we come into this existence, now we engage in the process of awareness. And actually, awareness has a cycle to it that in the nature of your being here, you want to process that cycle with some precision to it. And I'm going to just run through the cycle here, the cycle of awareness, very quickly. Because obviously, before you can actually engage in more functionality of the spirit, some of these awarenesses are like just being aware that you have a spirit and becoming aware that you want to develop your beliefs around this having a spirit. So the cycle of awareness is this, as we talked about in the previous video discussion, that you chose this experience for a specific purpose, and now that was your choice of birth. So then from birth, which the next thing, and I'm just going to run through this cycle without elaborating on them, at least here too much, is from birth you have responsibility. You have to take complete responsibility of everything. From responsibility, you then create discipline. From discipline, you then get to create a mood. That's what you want to set next. That's your next level of achievement that you want to attain, is a mood. And that's what you engage the world with. Then from mood, you get to, because you already have the discipline, you get to create your attitude. Again, it's this attitude to which you engage the world. And from this engagement of the world, you're going to get different perspectives and different perceptions through your practices of various techniques, whether it's meditations, academics, or whatever. But from mood, you choose your attitude. From attitude, then you will start to form your beliefs. These beliefs will be founded with a good foundation. Then from doing the previous stages in the correct order. So now your attitudes are going to start forming beliefs. They're going to be devoid of necessarily the cynicism and skepticism and everything else that you have to have as you're doing critical thought. But when you're forming your beliefs, they're going to be more refined and directed towards your specific purpose and your way of being. From beliefs, you're going to create your behaviors. Your behaviors will be how you socialize yourself. The world will try to socialize you, and that is a large stumbling block of the occurrences within this three-dimensional experiences. So you want your belief and your belief systems to found your behaviors, no matter how the world wants to socialize you. From having the correct behaviors, in the next part of the cycle is from behaviors you can then create the correct intent. Intent is the key. Intent is the channel of communication. Intent is the significant essence of what you want to deal with here. From intent, then you can go to the correct perception. So it's intent to perception. Yes, you think you're going to just perceive everything naturally, haphazardly, randomly, somewhat accidentally or whatever. But no, you want to perceive the world from the way that you intended, that was formed by your belief system. So from your perception, then it's going to, the cycle of awareness is going to go perception to awareness. Once you have these situations in place, then you're going to perceive awareness from a more clean process of intent. Once you have awareness is starting to accumulate, and they do accumulate one on another. Of course, some awarenesses can be more dramatic, can be more influential, can be larger, can be more emotional, it can be everything. But your awarenesses will accumulate to eventually form a critical mass that will help you break that social bond that tries to tie you and kind of tries to negate the spiritual aspect of your being. So from awareness, then you become aware of death. You become aware of what is death. Of course, it's a portal, but you become aware of what is death, what occurs after the death. You become aware of the spiritual realm. You become aware of the functionality that the spiritual world has is equally as much as you understand then the functionality that you have every day in just the survival impetus. So that, in a nutshell, is the cycle of awareness, but there's a tiny bit more to it, but for all intents and purposes, that is the cycle of awareness, and it is what we are immersed in the nature of our being here. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you relate to it. I hope it rings true to you. And I want to keep these video discussions fairly short. And so until the next video discussion, I wish you peace, comfort, and awareness. And